welcome. Just maybe settle in for a moment.
Yeah.
Wherever you are listening, can you just take a breath, maybe notice what's here for you right now?
Yes. Let's just, yeah, land here together.
Yeah.
In this space.
I've been thinking about that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us probably know it. It's late, right? The day should really be over.
Mm-hmm.
But there you are, still staring at that screen, still kind of caught up in work stuff.
Yeah.
And, from the outside, it probably looks like you've got it all together. Successful, driven, all that.
Right. The image.
But what's the real feeling underneath all that doing?
That gap between how things look and how they actually feel inside. Wow. It can be pretty big, can it?
It really can.
We get so good at playing the part, sometimes we lose track of what's genuinely going on for us.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like if you really stopped, not just, a quick coffee break, but a real full stop, and ask yourself, why? Why am I chasing this career thing so hard? And forget the easy answers for a sec.
Yeah, the standard lines we tell ourselves.
What's the raw truth? Like the unfiltered reason behind it all? Could it be, I don't know, about something way deeper than just the job title or the money?
That takes courage, asking that. It really does.
It feels vulnerable.
It asks for a level of honesty that's, well, it can be tough. Because you have to look past the reasons we usually give, to others, and maybe even the ones we tell ourselves.
So this deep dive we're doing, that's kind of where we're going with this. Exploring this idea, this possibility, that sometimes this intense career focus, it might actually be a kind of escape.
An escape.
Not like a holiday escape, but more like avoiding something else.
Yeah, it's subtle, isn't it? Because it's often wrapped up in things society actually applauds. Being ambitious, dedicated, getting stuff done.
Right, productive.
We can get so tangled up chasing those external things, those markers, that we don't even notice what we might be turning away from inside.
It makes me think of, I was thinking about this woman, let's call her Anna, not her real name, obviously, but her story just really hit me. Here's someone who, by all accounts, had made it. Big career success.
The whole package.
Yeah, high-powered job, the respect, everything. And yet, she talked about feeling just completely disconnected from herself. She actually said, I don't know who I am anymore.
Wow.
That just, it lands, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It really points to that danger of thinking that achieving things out there is the same as feeling fulfilled in here.
Yeah.
You can climb all the mountains you set out to climb, reach those peaks, and still feel like something crucial is just missing. That fundamental sense of okayness isn't there.
It's like we buy into this narrative, if I just hit this milestone, get that promotion, then I'll finally feel satisfied, content.
Then I'll arrive.
But then what happens when you get there? And the feeling isn't what you expected. Maybe it's short-lived, or maybe it's not there at all.
And that can bring up such deep disappointment, maybe even confusion.
Right, like I did everything right.
Exactly, I followed the map. We pour so much of ourselves into these external goals, thinking they're the key to feeling happy, only to find the key doesn't quite turn the lock, or it opens the wrong door.
And look, this isn't saying ambition is bad or wanting to succeed is wrong. Not at all.
No, of course not. Healthy drive is important.
It's more about maybe looking a bit closer at why we're driven. The underlying motivation, are we sometimes using our careers almost like a shield, a buffer, to keep certain feelings or maybe tough questions just at arm's length?
That makes a lot of sense. The sheer busyness of a demanding career, the deadlines, the constant problem solving, always needing to be on, it can be a really, really effective way to just distract ourselves from things inside that feel uncomfortable or maybe even painful.
Yeah.
It keeps us so occupied on the surface, there's hardly any time or frankly energy left to turn inwards.
Just think about it for a second. You listening right now, when was the last time you really let yourself just be still without immediately grabbing your phone or making a list or figuring something out?
Just being.
When did you last just sit with whatever feeling was showing up without needing to fix it or analyze it or push it away?
It feels almost radical, doesn't it, in our culture, which values doing, achieving, producing so highly.
Totally.
Just allowing ourselves to be with our actual present experience. It can feel unproductive, maybe even a bit threatening.
Because let's be honest, that escape through work, it kind of works, right? For a while.
Oh, absolutely. There's a payoff.
That hit you get after finishing a huge project or the praise from your boss or just feeling like you accomplished something.
Yeah.
It gives you this immediate buzz.
Yeah, there's a real psychological reward there. Our brains literally release chemicals, dopamine and others, that reinforce doing it again. It creates a powerful loop.
It does. But like anything we use to kind of numb out or avoid something deeper, that feeling, that buzz, it doesn't usually last, does it?
No, it's temporary.
Eventually, those underlying questions or that kind of background hum of anxiety or just that sense that something's not quite right, it tends to creep back in. And it feels like no matter how many more things you achieve, how many more boxes you tick, it doesn't really touch that deeper thing.
Because the core issues, the things we might be running from, they don't just disappear because we're busy.
Right.
They often they find other ways to show up. Maybe it's physical tension, maybe it's burnout, trouble sleeping, or just that nagging feeling that something's off even when things look great on paper.
So what could it be? What might we be trying to outrun, do you think?
Oh, it could be so many things. Maybe a fear of not being good enough, a failing of what other people think.
Judgment.
Or maybe it's old pain, things from the past that haven't really healed that we just don't want to feel.
Or, and this one feels big, maybe it's just the anxiety that comes up when we even think about slowing down enough to ask, okay, if I wasn't my job title, my accomplishments, who would I actually be?
That is a huge question, and it can stir up a lot, can it? Real anxiety. Because when our whole sense of self, our identity gets so wrapped up in what we do professionally, the idea of separating those things, it can feel incredibly shaky, destabilizing even.
In Gestalt therapy, there's this concept. It's called unfinished business. Have you heard of that?
I have. It's powerful.
Yeah. It's like these unresolved emotions or needs that never really got met or experiences that just feel incomplete. They kind of hang around, don't they, inside us?
They linger. Yeah.
Almost demanding attention.
Yeah.
And one way we sometimes cope or maybe avoid is by just staying constantly busy, using work as this perpetual motion machine.
To avoid having to look at what's been left unfinished, what's still there waiting.
Exactly. It can feel so much safer, can't it? To just focus on the next work problem, the next deadline, rather than turn towards those inner loose ends.
Busyness becomes a really convenient shield. It keeps those uncomfortable feelings or memories sort of pushed down, at least seemingly.
But like you said before, that unfinished stuff, it tends to find a way to leak out, doesn't it?
It really does.
It might be that burnout we talked about, or that free-floating anxiety.
Yeah.
Or just feeling empty no matter how much we achieve. These could be like signals.
Exactly. Symptoms are signals.
Yeah.
They're our system's way of saying, hey, there's something here that needs looking at.
Yeah.
Aspects of ourselves or our past that need not avoiding, but actually acknowledging, maybe integrating, bringing into the light.
So just for a moment again, as you're listening, maybe check in. Does any of this sound familiar? Can you think of times when, maybe you use the intensity of work to sidestep something else, something going on in your life or just inside you?
No judgment, just noticing.
Yeah, just gentle curiosity.
And maybe also, can you recall times when you felt really alive, engaged, not because of work, but because you were just fully there, present, connected, maybe outside of that whole professional role?
Those moments, even if they were fleeting, they can tell us so much, can't they?
Huge clues.
About what actually feeds you, what nourishes your soul, beyond the KPIs and the performance reviews.
They can shine a light on those deeper wells of meaning, satisfaction, things that might be getting kind of drowned out by the noise and the urgency of our careers.
So we talked about work as a buffer, right? A way to avoid maybe difficult feelings like fear or pain or just plain uncertainty.
Think about Anna again, the example you use. Perhaps using those deadlines, those meetings. It was a way for her to not feel overwhelmed by other things, maybe relationship stuff or just that inner emptiness.
Yeah, it keeps you focused outward, doesn't it? Less space to feel the internal chaos.
Exactly. It provides structure, tasks, a sense of control perhaps when other areas feel uncontrollable.
As you're considering this idea of work as avoidance, just notice maybe if anything shifts in your body, any tension showing up, shoulders tightening, a heaviness anywhere.
The body holds so much, doesn't it? It often knows the score long before our conscious mind catches up. That subtle clenching in the jaw, the shallow breath.
It's like our biography stored physically.
There's this model in Gestalt, the cycle of experience. It sort of describes how we naturally meet our needs. It starts with the sensation, leads to awareness, then mobilizing energy, taking action, making contact, and finally withdrawal, resting.
Okay, sensation, awareness, mobilization, action, contact withdrawal.
Right. But when we're using work, say, as that constant doing,
Mhm.
it can become a bypass. We might sense something uncomfortable.
Like anxiety.
Yeah, or sadness, or a need for connection. But instead of moving into awareness and figuring out what's needed, we jump straight into work action. We mobilize energy for a deadline instead.
So we short-circuit the cycle.
Exactly. We bypass the actual feeling, the real need, and the cycle doesn't complete. The emotion gets suppressed. The need stays unmet, and that energy gets stuck.
Stuck energy.
Yeah.
That sounds like stress. Or that burnout feeling.
It can absolutely manifest that way. Unfinished cycles pile up, and then there's projection, too.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes those really strong reactions we have to colleagues or bosses, maybe intense irritation or judgment, sometimes those reactions are actually pointing to something unresolved within us, a part of ourselves we don't like or accept that we then see and react to in someone else.
So getting mad at my colleague's disorganization might actually be about my own fear of chaos. Something like that.
It could be. It's another way the focus stays external, you see. It keeps us busy reacting to them rather than looking at our own internal landscape. Another distraction, in a way.
Wow, okay. That adds another layer to how work can keep us from ourselves.
And it ties into identity, doesn't it? How much our careers become who we are.
Oh, definitely. What do you do? Is often the first question people ask.
Exactly. And there's a real risk there of losing touch with our authentic self, the self that exists beyond the job title, the achievements, the societal expectations.
It makes you ask, who are you really? Beyond all that, if you stripped away the career identity, what remains?
That can be a scary question, but also incredibly liberating to explore.
Now, as we talk about all this, avoidance, identity, unfinished business.
Yeah.
It's totally normal if some resistance comes up, right?
Oh, absolutely. Resistance is natural. It's often a sign that we're touching on something important, something sensitive.
Like a part of us wants to protect us from uncomfortable truths.
Precisely. So if you feel that resistance, that urge to dismiss this or change the subject, or maybe just zone out, just notice it, acknowledge it, maybe even get curious about it, gently. What is it trying to protect?
Leaning into it rather than fighting it.
Gently, yes. With curiosity. Another useful lens here is the idea of polarities, like stability versus freedom, or control versus surrender, or connection versus autonomy.
Okay, like opposing forces.
Exactly, and we all have these within us. But sometimes, especially driven by avoidance, we might get stuck heavily on one pole, like maybe overemphasizing stability and control through work.
At the expense of freedom or spontaneity or deeper connection.
Precisely. The system gets out of balance, so asking yourself, which polarity might I be leaning on too heavily, maybe using my career to prop it up?
That's a really interesting reflection. And again, the body, you mentioned it holds things. It's like a repository for this unconscious avoidance.
Very much so. Chronic tension, recurring pains, fatigue. These can absolutely be physical manifestations of stress, suppressed emotions, those imbalances we talked about. The body keeps the score.
So maybe we could try a tiny experiential thing, just for a moment.
Let's.
Okay, just if you feel comfortable, imagine, just for a second, stepping completely away from your career identity, just letting it dissolve for this moment. And notice what feelings bubble up. Maybe fear, relief, confusion, emptiness, excitement.
Just observing whatever arises.
And where do you feel those emotions in your body? Is there a tightness in your chest, a fluttering in your stomach, a sense of expansion? Just notice.
This kind of noticing, it's the beginning of awareness, bringing the unconscious into the conscious.
And it's important to say, right, that this kind of exploration, this transformation, it's not like a straight line. It's not linear.
Not at all. It's messy, ups and downs, steps forward, steps back.
Yeah. So the key is really ongoing curiosity and maybe some kindness towards ourselves in the process.
Compassion is crucial. Curiosity and compassion. Because we're often unraveling deeply ingrained patterns.
So let's circle back to that initial question we posed. What if your career is simply a way to escape from yourself? Maybe the answer isn't a simple yes or no. Maybe it's an ongoing exploration, a way to just deepen our awareness around why we do what we do.
Exactly. It's not about judgment. It's about understanding, seeing the patterns clearly.
There's a real paradox here, isn't there? The idea of stopping, pausing that relentless pursuit. It can feel terrifying, like everything might fall apart.
The void can feel scary.
But maybe that pause is actually necessary. Maybe it's in the stopping that we actually discover what truly matters, what we've been running from, and maybe what we truly long for.
That's often where the real gold lies, in the willingness to slow down, to face the discomfort, to listen to the quieter voices within.
Think about Anna again. Her journey didn't end with that realization of emptiness. It was actually the beginning. As she started, very slowly, to disentangle her identity from her job. She began reconnecting with things she'd forgotten she loved, old passions, spending time differently.
Reclaiming parts of herself.
Yeah. And it wasn't about abandoning her career entirely, but about integrating it, letting it be part of her life, not the whole story. Finding a more authentic way to be in the world, work included.
That integration is key. It's about wholeness.
But that's stopping. It's not a one-time thing, is it? It's more like a practice, a daily choice almost.
Every day. Choosing presence over performance again and again, even in small ways.
And that takes courage, real courage, to choose the pause when the world screams go.
It really does.
So maybe for anyone listening,
Yeah.
what's one tiny step you could take? Maybe today, maybe this week. Just one small thing to consciously slow down and reconnect with yourself outside of the doing of work.
Could be 5 minutes of quiet reflection. Could be journaling one honest thought. Could be finally having that slightly difficult conversation you've been avoiding.
Yeah, something that brings you back into contact with yourself.
Well, and this leads to the idea of responsibility, doesn't it? But not responsibility as a burden, more like empowerment.
Anyway,
Owning our story. Recognizing that we are the authors. We have the power to look at these patterns, to understand them, and then to choose differently. To redefine what success actually means for us personally.
taking responsibility for our own experience and choices.
Yes, and aligning our actions more closely with our deeper values, not just external pressures or old avoidance habits. Gestalt talks a lot about owning all parts of ourselves, too.
The good, the bad, the messy.
Exactly. The strengths, the weaknesses, the light, the shadow. It's embracing the whole picture that we become truly whole, truly integrated, not trying to be perfect, but real.
So maybe we can reframe that first question slightly. Instead of, is your career an escape? What if? What if your career is not just an escape, but maybe it's also a teacher, a mirror, a catalyst that's actually prompting this deeper self-awareness if we're willing to look?
I love that reframe. It holds the possibility that even the patterns we want to change have served a purpose and can actually guide us toward growth. The escape itself becomes informative.
Yeah. It's not the enemy necessarily, but
Yeah.
data, information about where the healing or integration needs to happen.
Beautifully put. It's all information.
And remembering, this stuff unfolds. It's gradual. It's not about fixing everything overnight.
Absolutely. Stay engaged with the process. Stay curious. The insights come in layers.
So maybe the final image is like standing at the edge of a forest, you know? The familiar, well-trodden path of your career is behind you. It feels safe, known.
Comfortable, even if unfulfilling.
And ahead is this uncharted territory, the inner landscape. It might feel unknown, maybe a little intimidating.
Yeah, the journey inward.
But the invitation is there to turn towards it, to explore, to maybe discover that your real value, your true self, is so much bigger, so much richer than just your professional accomplishments.
That your worth isn't tied to your productivity.
Exactly. Yeah. So the invitation is just keep exploring, keep asking the questions, keep pausing, because the answers, they're likely waiting within you.
They really are.